Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group, and tonight we're on our political channel again, and we have Mr. Darren Story on, and he was running for third district at large, and he has pulled out the race as of now, and we want to talk a little bit about why he pulled out and how he sees the political landscape here in Kansas City, especially for the third district at large seat. Welcome to the show, Darren.
Good to be here, Carlos. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to be on.
Talk to our audience about just why did you pull out the race?
Well, there are several reasons why, but the main reason, Rodney, was, and if I'm to be transparent, and I won't get into the weeds of it all, but there's some health issues that I need to attend to. Personal reasons. And, I'm 12 years younger than when my father died. He died at 69 years old. So you become acutely aware of your mortality when you get to be this age, and I pay attention. And I needed to reduce stress. I needed to take care of me and my family. And so that is really the crux of why I dropped out. As of early as, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was full steam ahead. I was ready to go. And then, of course, had a nice conversation with my doctor, and some things were assessed. And so I had to make a decision. So I'm disappointed because I've been at this since almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. I started the process, started learning, started talking to people, started getting support from people. So it's very disappointing that I had to step out. But I would be doing a disservice to the people of Kansas City if I were to get elected and then all of a sudden I can't fulfill my duties because my health is not in where it needs to be. So tough decision, disappointing decision. I went through the whole range of emotions about it, worrying about what people are going to think about me, worrying about people that support me. But everyone has been amazing. When I've talked to the people that support me, my volunteers, the people that have endorsed me, totally understood, felt like I was making the right decision. So I want to thank them, those folks who have supported me all this time, for their understanding and having to make this decision. But, I want those who I may not know that may have planned on voting for me to know why as well, so that's why I wanted to come on your show and talk about it.
Yes. Now, what the second question was, how do you actually see the political landscape overall as it relates to, we had off conversation off the air, and I told you that I really was only concerned with block voting and group economics when it came to the third and fifth district. And I felt that those two things gave you access to a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. And what I asked the people that are running and the people that are in office, whose responsibility is that to deliver that to the Black community?
Well, I think obviously your elected officials are responsible for creating a pathway to that, but also we have to empower public partnerships, or whether it's nonprofit organizations or the business community. How do we empower them to bring that, especially when it comes to group economics, when it comes to block voting? That is strictly in the realm of those in political space. And also, I think it has a lot to do with policy. So if you don't have policy that's going to empower these things to happen, then of course it goes right back to the lawmakers. And who do we talk to get policy or ordinances, or whether it's at the state, local, or federal level? Those are the people, when it comes down to it, that have the power. So then people have to then galvanize their interest. And I'm imagining you're putting together a coalition about this. You told me over the next 24 months, you're all in when it comes to these two things. So it's going to take a coalition of people as well that are on the same page about those two endeavors to make that happen, to put pressure on those who are in elected office. So when it all said and done, it does come back to the people, and putting pressure on the elected officials to do what's necessary when we want change.
All right. Because you're in the media industry, a different segment of the media industry than I am, uh, how do you see that taking place with public officials and everyone else when, from my perspective, and this is just fundamentally in people of color community, our ability to communicate with the bottom 3/4 of our community, there really hasn't been a serious effort to get them involved in the conversation. And from my perspective, the radio waves and what we do here at Cascade with digital media, but the radio waves per se is mainstream, and really to get from my perspective, a decent message, of course, you got to spend X amount of dollars.
Right.
And that's where the tire meets the road. But here in Kansas City, for the life of me, all of us have phones which we use to YouTube and do all these other things. And we here having the one of the only Black-owned media-based companies that provide the direct access to people of color on a multiplicity of levels and subjects. It's not making a lot of sense why we're not using the platform to initiate campaign to engage our bottom 3/4 of our community. It doesn't cost too much because everybody has a phone. But if they don't know where the information that they need to make better decisions, then we got this vicious circle. And had you pursued your endeavor with the third district, do you think that you would have been able, and this is all hypothetical, to see, because I'm asking the candidates that's there, will you be committed if you get elected to coming on the show at least once a month or 3 times or every other week to inform your constituents of what they need to be informed on, so that base can grow. And once you have that maturation point where you have that significant amount of numbers, you're going to decide any situation in this city once the majority community starts to duke it out. And you can say, I've got 30,000 or 100,000 votes to throw each way. And I think the Black community can do it. I've seen it done. And because you were running at large in the community, and regardless of what people, like you said, you didn't want people to think this, regardless of what people think, you have nothing to lose by expanding on what I just said. Do you agree or don't you agree?
Well, there was a lot there, but I will tell you this, even though I'm out of the race, I will tell you that, Carlos, had I won, I would have come on your show at least once a month. So I think your medium of communication is important. Now, going back to radio, since I'm on radio, I do a community affairs show, which you've been on, Caring for KC. And that's a vehicle that I use. It doesn't cost anybody anything. So we do a lot at 107 as far as trying to uplift messaging. We do tons of PSAs. And that's part of my, if you will, mission, is to get people to understand that there are ways you can be on the radio and it won't cost you any money. We have an FCC mandate that we must do these things. So my show and the PSAs that we put on, but at the same time, what you're talking about, is very important because, like you said, everybody has a phone. Now, I don't really believe everybody might have a phone, but I don't know if everybody has a smartphone where they can, they got some dumb phones out there that people are carrying around, the flip phones, which I still kind of like flip phones. I still think they're cool. But
You Mr. Gates.
I ain't mad at him. But
me neither. I got one.
I still think flip phones are cool. But so yeah, so I mean, so that's important that over across all different mediums, whether it's radio, whether it's digital, whether it's television, whether it's the newspaper, whether it's billboards or whatever, any way that we can communicate with you or with that group, that population that you're talking about, we have to try to do that. We have to make the tent bigger, and I think that's what you're talking about. Is
right.
that our tent is relatively small now, and so we have to make a bigger tent. And those are the people that are oftentimes disenfranchised, or they're not engaged because they don't think that what we are doing is for them. They don't think that they can engage in whatever it is we're doing over here because we have created a certain feel of exclusivity when it comes to engaging, and whether it's economics or whether it's politics. And so they just go about their business and they just do their thing, right? They just survive.
Everybody's trying to put a meal on the table,
right.
And really, unless it's really brought to their attention, specifically, it's like, I tell everybody, I go back to the Temptations, the ball of confusion. The world is a ball of confusion. And when I distilled Bosnia, all the different things that are going on in the world, Africa, and you have so many people that are specialized in trying to help the poor, feed the hungry. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And the average person on a local level at this time, they have been programmed to believe that it's too much, and they can't make a change because they can't see when we invest in our community, we're really investing in ourselves, because they have been sold a bill of goods. You better watch out for your own and keep it moving.
Absolutely. I hear you, man. You're right. You're right. So that population, I'm glad that you are committed to that, because we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of this overnight. So you pledging to take the next 2 years and really drill down to make sure we get those people engaged. I think it's important because, again, Kansas City is notorious for having low turnout when we vote, and we have not found a way to engage those people. So I think what you're doing is that's a very good thing.
More so, I'm bringing to the forefront, we have got to stop dealing with personalities and deal with accomplishments. That you can't have block voting if you hate Mr. Nelson, or I don't like Darren, so I'm not going to. The only thing we have to agree on is block voting group. If you want to wear pink socks or red hat, go ahead and wear it. If you don't want to do whatever, if we can agree on those two things, we can empower our community to do great things.
Well, unfortunately, Carlos, we take our cues from the things that we take in, right? The things that we watch, the information we read, the videos we watch, all that information, and it has become all about personality now. It's not about accomplishments. It's not about common sense. It's not about those things. It's about who can do the most rabble rousing a lot of times, and that's unfortunate, because in this third at large race, it's already gotten kind of crazy since I got out with, and listen, nobody should be walking around with rifles in front of folks' house. That's a nonsense.
Nobody should be walking around with rifles, period.
Right. That's a bridge too far. And I'm sorry that Brandon had to deal with that. I mean, that no one should have to deal with that, regardless of how you feel about someone. And then it starts, right? Who did it? Who's blaming? And so now looking at this shiny object over here, and we're not focusing on what the issues are in the third district. Everybody's focusing on that. And that is not going to give us the communities that you're striving for, Carlos. And I just hope that things can calm down and we get back to what the people need in Kansas City.
Let me say this on another level. I want to talk to you about the school district, but on another level. So I get calls all the time. So I get a call yesterday about from some influential people. Hey man, you missing it on the NFL. You need to bring some other people on the NFL. And I've said, yeah, y'all want to talk about the NFL now because this boy has gotten hurt. I was going to get my prescription yesterday at Walmart, and so I got the talk radio on all the time. And I don't know whether it was Stephen A. or who, and they were saying that the kid only had half health care, and you can't get full health care in the NFL for 2 years.
Your third or fourth year, like third, right? Third or fourth year?
Yeah, right. No, it's the second, the third year. All right. And then, but then the conversation went all the way into the billions of dollars and really went back to slavery because you got gladiators out there of African descent primarily, and most of them people don't be in the league for more than 4 years, and they're not making a whole lot of money, and their bodies are being ruined and billions of dollars. Now, I said now they want to have that conversation, but for the last 10 years, Mr. Nelson wouldn't support the NFL, and you never see anything on any of our sports with the NFL. And this is where marketing and programming begins. I'm like, you can look at any NFL, NBA, any of those major league sports. Look at when the camera goes to the crowd. You cannot see any black people unless they pan in on them. But what black people do, they buy all this cheap stuff, Dallas stuff, have these big parties, and all of that. Everybody's going to the bank but you. And then who you give your money to is who you empower. And so when you're not looking at block voting and group economics and a strategy, whoever you have in office, they fooling you. They bamboozling you. Listen to some of Malcolm's stuff, because that's what they're doing. And what I'm saying to you, because if you get your health issues, this is me being Swami with Johnny Carson, I think the next go round, you'll have your hat in the ring. And I hope this conversation weighs on you heavily. Ball is in your court.
Well, Carlos, thank you for that. I don't know what the future holds. I only got today. But I will tell you that my plan is to still be engaged in the same ways I have been prior to running, and maybe even some opportunities that exist where I can serve in for the city in some way where it's not like, clocking in. Maybe there's some boards or something like that that I can serve on that impact what happens in our community. So I leave all that open. But and as far as the next go around, I'll be 61, and I know it. I know I'm still younger than you, so you don't want me complaining about it. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, I'll be.
I think you'll be seasoned, and you know what I like what you just said. You said I still can serve, and I can serve on some of these boards, and that might be the creator's plan. I know how I was a gangster. I'm like, Dad, you acting civil now. And I feel this is what I was put on earth to do.
Yeah.
And I you don't know, but
yes.
I told you that I have 4 or 5 calls on you that high level people that had money, I said, like that, they were ready to support you.
Yeah. And
that surprised me. As shaky as most of these people are.
Well, I appreciate that information, and I I do feel like, I mean, I was a viable candidate. I was not a paper candidate. I knew that I ran a strong campaign up until this point, and I felt like that I had a chance to win. I'm happy to hear that, and I'm happy to hear that maybe other people felt the same way as well. But you know, I have endorsed Melissa Patterson Hasley at this point. Her and I have had some great conversations. I feel very strongly about her ability to be a, a a teammate down there at council, collaborating with others. I think, which is something that we have to get
Build that
done.
coalition.
You gotta build coalitions, down there, and the city will be better for it. And I'm actually very happy about some of the other people that are running for the other seats that are open. That I feel like that there will be a group of people that have a real desire to work together and to collaborate to get big things done for the city, because we got a lot of stuff coming up in front of us. You got people wanting to build baseball stadiums downtown. You've got the World Cup coming. We've got transportation issues we've got to deal with. We got to deal with the houseless problem, affordable housing, all these things. And I think that this particular council could be one of the most consequential councils that we've seen in a long time. So this is not for the faint of heart. And so I'm supporting anybody that wants to get there and do the work together. And if you work together, everybody will end up eventually getting what they want and what they need for their constituents.
All right. We're getting ready to close out, but now I got to get some kind of report card on these brothers. On a one on a 1 to 10, what kind of job do you think Quentin is doing?
I think Quentin's doing a good job. I mean, I think Quentin, and this I will give something. I think this council also needs to get some grace because they inherited, or not inherited, but COVID, a black swan event, something that we hadn't seen in 100 years. So I think that the scorecards have to be somewhat skewed because of that, because people were literally doing things they had never done before, thinking about things they had never had to think about before. So I would not pass judgment on them or any of the people. My biggest problem with council is I felt like, which is why I ran, is that I felt like they could have did better working together.
All right, hold it. Oh, man, the heck with all that crap. 1 to 10.
You want to?
Yeah, measurable.
I'll give him an 8.
Measurable. Huh?
I'll give him an 8. I give him an 8.
Heck, me and you on the same page.
I give him an 8.
And I
don't think nobody's a 10. I don't think anybody could get a 10.
All right, now, hey, I'm on the city manager's case. 1 to 10.
It's still early.
Right now, what he's done now. The race ain't over, but where he's at in the race.
City manager.
He's no Troy Schulte, I'll tell you that.
Troy's a hard act to follow. I give him a 6.
All right. The county exec. We're not gonna go with them council people and stuff. We just Frank White. 1 to 10.
And this is just me as a citizen. This is not me.
Right.
I mean, the property tax thing was a big deal that it impacted a lot of people. I'll give Frank a 7.
We're running out of time.
Give it 7.
You give him a 7?
Give him a 7.
All right. Now, before we close out, what do you think about the school district in general, Casey, and the charter school stuff? About the closing, even though now we know what's happening with the public schools, but charter schools, close that out with some comment.
Well, obviously, our public school system is strained right now. I do believe that Dr. Adele left it better than he found it, but he wasn't here long enough to probably finish what he wanted to finish. So it's going to take a lot of leadership. I am not happy about hearing schools are closing again. We went through this about 10, 12 years ago, right sizing of the district. And also what we need to understand is that schools are catalysts for neighborhoods. So when schools close in neighborhoods, you can best believe that that neighborhood is going to make a dramatic shift, probably towards the negative than the positive. So I think when they're making these decisions and when they're looking at that, the board has to understand that they're not just closing a school.
It's the domino effect.
It's the domino effect. You are literally kind of like closing down a neighborhood, not just a school. So that again, domino effect, as you mentioned. As far as charter schools are concerned, this constant fight between charter school, public schools. Full disclosure, my kids went to Academy Lafayette till the 8th grade. One went to Lincoln, one's at Rockhurst, and it was a great experience for them. But that was that school, and if you don't have funding, you don't have great leadership with charter schools, ultimately they will fail because they don't have the infrastructure of the public school system to keep them afloat. So I just hope that people, I know people want to take education into their own hands, but you remember, these are kids' lives you're playing with. You can't, opening up schools should not be like opening up a restaurant. I mean, yes, there's a lot of responsibility that goes into that. So I just hope that the educators that are in leadership understand and do the right things for whether it's a public school or the charter school system. But there's still a lot of work to do, because I just found out that out of the 2,300 kids in the 3rd grade here in Kansas City, both public and charter schools, only 20% of those kids are reading proficiently as they should. And when you don't do that, you're more likely to drop out. You're more likely to commit a crime. And then, of course, more likely you're going to become part of the prison population eventually. So we have to stem that tide.
I think that's appropriate on closing. I'm giving a punch in the face to the downtown council and the corporations here in Kansas City, because when our community, the Black community and the people of color community, is sick, you cannot have the Kansas City. You want the downtown stadiums, you want all of this to project that Kansas City is this type of city, and my people are not getting their fair share of the pie. And that's what Cascade Media is here for, to scream at our top of our lungs that we coming for you, and we coming for you with that vote. And that vote is going to empower us. So it's best for you to act right now so that we can have this coalition that we all talk about to make Kansas City a better city. And I'm going to leave this. My godfather, Carl DeCapo, he told me, Carlos, leave all that other stuff. If it's not good for Kansas City, you have no business being involved in it.
There you go.
And I'm going to leave it at that. You have any closing words?
I would ask people of Kansas City this, and this is not because I'm anti-downtown baseball, but what would make our city better to make sure that not only 20% of our 3rd graders are reading proficiently, but more like 100%, or having a downtown baseball stadium? In the long run, better educated.
Investment in people than them.
Yeah. So I'm not saying I'm not down for downtown baseball, but we need to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Well, I think that's appropriate. And as we always close, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
The program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.